Okay, time to give everyone a quick update on where things are headed for the weekly side series videos. For No Nostalgia Retro Gaming, we'll be switching over to the TurboGrafx 16, and the first video covering a TG16 game will be next week. All Patreon supporters should already be able to see a voting post to cast a vote on the first TG16 game that we're going to be looking at. And a reminder too, for everyone nominating games, we're only selecting HuCard releases, no CD releases, and that all regions are valid to pick from. Though when picking a game that's heavy with non-English dialogue, please check to make sure an English patch exists, otherwise it might be difficult to see what the game's all about. However, there is going to be one minor change to how Double Energy is going to work going forward. For the first 100 weeks of the show, I was adamant in providing as genuine of a first experience with these games as I could, and that meant avoiding manuals and documentation if I could help it. Plus, I saw this as a challenge to myself to figure out how to play these games appropriately. The thing is, though, the general sentiment seems to be that even though I enjoyed approaching the games in this manner, most people watching did not. So, going forwards, with all Double Energy videos, I will be reading game documentation ahead of time and will be playing each game on my own accord for about 10 to 30 minutes first before I reset the game and begin recording. In this manner, I won't be going in completely blind anymore, so fewer things will come up as a surprise, but hopefully it means I'll be able to better explain what's going on and can condense down certain segments more appropriately without them dragging on. Plus it means I will be far less likely to miss crucial details. Lastly, for anyone with nominating power who hasn't nominated any TG16 games yet, remember, I'm just as in the dark as you are. Just load up a list of games and pick ones which sound cool, or heck, browse the TG16 section over on the VG Museum site and see if anything there looks like it'd be worth seeing some gameplay of. The point is, don't be afraid to pick games just because you're unfamiliar with the console. Treat it like you're going into a Blockbuster video store to rent a game or two for the weekend. So here's the thing, bootleg gaming may not be doing so well as a series, but it's not doing terribly. Remember, it was what won the votes for bringing in a second side series originally. Now on top of that, I invested a sizable chunk of change into my capture setup and acquiring devices to showcase, and I don't want all of that to go to waste. So, with all of that in mind, bootleg gaming is only getting the axe as a regular series. My intent is to transition BLG into a non-regular series, where I just do a video every once in a while just for the heck of it, probably on the order of once every 3 to 5 months, whenever I have a solid chunk of spare time. Also, instead of having Patreon supporters nominate for it, since BLG videos will be very infrequent and irregularly scheduled, I will instead be picking the games myself. And lastly, instead of each BLG video only being about 1 or 2 games, they will now each showcase between 6 and 10 games, depending on how big those games are, with each video targeting a minimum runtime of half an hour. Again though, there's not going to be a set schedule for this new iteration of BLG, just whenever the desire strikes to make a BLG video, and I will let everyone know when that happens. And finally, the announcement everyone's been waiting for, the new DOS gaming related side series, which will be titled Ancient DOS Games SE. Now, what does the SE stand for? Well, not Special Edition, and not Second Edition, but rather Shareware Edition. ADG SE is basically going to be a show similar to Shovelware Diggers, where Patreon supporters at the $8 tier or higher can nominate games, and those nominations will be shuffled and presented through a queue. However, the restriction here is that only the shareware and demo versions of games can be nominated. This can be games which have already been covered in their full registered forms on ADG, games which have appeared on Shovelware Diggers prior, or games which haven't yet appeared in any of the videos on the channel. Keeping in mind that if it did show up in a previous video, there might not be much new to say about the shareware versions of these games. There's also a couple more stipulations. Freeware games will also be allowed on the show, but only if they have always been freeware. Games which were once commercial but have since been made freeware don't count, and instead should be requested to appear as a proper ADG episode. Also, despite the ancient in the title, ADG SE will not have any game age limits in place. So yes, Patreon supporters can nominate modern DOS titles if they so desire. The goal is similar to bootleg gaming, to aim for a minimum runtime of at least 12 minutes or longer, covering only one game if it's large enough to fit the bill, and 2 games when both games are smaller in size or have less to show. And just like with the new change for Double Energy, I'll be reading documentation and playing games ahead of time for a little before recording footage in order to demonstrate their features as best as I can. As such, it'll still primarily be more of a first impressions format rather than a review format. And yes, this means if you're pledging support on Patreon at the $8 a month tier or higher, you can now submit DOS game selections for ADGSE. Simply go to your DOS shareware and freeware websites of choice, pick stuff out that you'll want to see on the show, and ensure you send me your nominations in the order you want them nominated in. Also, unlike prior side series, I will be participating in the nomination process too. Though because I'm the one making the show and can thus see what everyone else has nominated, I will exclusively be selecting games which no one else has. That way I'm not stepping on anyone's toes in the process. The first ADG SE video will debut 2 weeks from now, so make sure you send in your nominations if you're tiered up high enough to do so. And for everyone who wants to participate but isn't yet a Patreon supporter, you can find details over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/KASICK, with the minimum tier to nominate games for Double Energy and ADG SE being the $8 unique nominator tier. And also a reminder that all paid Patreon supporters get to vote on game nominations for Double Energy, even if it's just $1 a month. Anywho, that's all for this update on the side series videos. Thanks for watching, and here's hoping I finally hit the nail on the head with both No Nostalgia Retro Gaming and the new Ancient DOS Games Shareware Edition.